guys, we got a new video here. This is Uber and DoorDash is a joke. Let's check it out.
Now let's shift gears and talk about gig workers for a minute, because a lot of gig workers have been quitting the gig apps like Uber and DoorDash in masses lately, which is kind of surprising and a clue of what's happening in the economy and the job market, guys. Because the thing is, a lot of people, instead of filing for unemployment over the past couple of years who lost a job, have turned to these gig work opportunities because it's basically immediate. You can start earning almost instantly, and you can do it on your own schedule, provides a ton of flexibility that you don't have at your job. And a lot of people have been relying on that. But the problem is, it has become so much of a popular option for people who have lost jobs that now it is becoming oversaturated and people are not able to make the money that they were before.
I mean, he's spitting facts. I used to drive a lot for Uber. I drove for them like off and on for 7 years for like, side hustles and stuff like that. And at one point it was really, paying some good money. This was back around COVID time was happening and going on. And so that was before everybody started catching on. Then you had students, eventually home for break in the summer, and then they were jumping on, and then it began to become oversaturated, like he said, and the money and the things that they were offering, incentives and things of that nature, started to dry up. And these companies don't care about the drivers, guys. They're going to let almost anybody join, and they would rather have too many than not enough drivers. So that spelled its doom from the start right there.
Many of these Uber and Lyft drivers and DoorDash drivers are now seeking full-time jobs or other side hustles because the money is fading. The earnings are dropping like a rock for a lot of these people. Previously, a lot of them say they've worked about 40 hours a week and they earn $2,000 to $3,000 in gross pay. But now they're spending more time waiting for profitable rides to pick up, and drivers are increasingly cherry picking their trips in order to avoid low paying ones. And with more and more people out there doing it means more competition and less opportunity for everybody who is doing it. So what happens is you're sitting around a lot waiting for the next good gig to come up, and that's all unpaid time. You're just sitting around waiting for an opportunity. So drivers are now often monitoring these apps without getting any trips at all, and their effectively hourly pay drops sharply when you include that downtime.
And the problem with that is, it wears itself thin because it's already oversaturated, and the paying is starting to dry up. And, I drove for Uber Eats as well and DoorDash too, and they used to be, very profitable as well. But like I said, they started, taking more and more money, giving the drivers less and less for deliveries and pickups, and just squeezing every little cent that they could out of you. And then there were times where you would go pick an order up, and when you go do it, you sit there and wait in line, and you get all the way up to the counter to pick it up or ask about it. And they say, oh, that somebody else got that. Somebody else picked that up, or we don't have it here. And so you waste your time there. So it began to start to deteriorate, and then it didn't make sense to do it. Now, if you're driving for, Uber, or if you're driving for Lyft, there's still some money here, depending on where area you live in, where you can make you a little something. But then the problem comes in at the customers, because when you have to deal with people and you get assholes, you get all kind of different people in there, sometimes drunks and all that. I've had, I used to keep Walmart bags in the car because, you would pick up certain people at certain times of the day or night, and then they would be, sloppy drunk, and a couple of people were going to throw up. I give them the plastic bag, throw up in here, all of these type of things. So it began to wear on you. And then depending on who you are, it's going to make a difference.
And a lot of these drivers are worried that automation is going to replace them. And in a lot of cases, it might, guys. Like Waymo is now here in Miami. They just kind of started doing this over the past couple of months here. Those are driverless taxis, although for now they are far more expensive than taking an Uber, a Lyft, or a taxi. So you pay a huge premium for that. Why anybody would pay it, I don't know. But you do have people paying those premiums. And we even have delivery robots now here in Miami for different food delivery apps. I'm sure you've seen this in different parts of the country as well. But I even saw this on Uber Eats the other day, that there's a possibility your delivery might be delivered with one of these robots. And if it is, any tip that you added to your purchase will be deducted from your bill. So not only will it be cheaper for the customer to get Uber Eats or something like that from now on, but they're not using a person, right? They're potentially giving it to the robot that doesn't need a tip because the robot continues to just go on without needing to feed a family or pay the bills, right? And meanwhile, the Uber driver is not getting that delivery.
Yeah, man, it's crazy where the future is headed. And if you don't get ahead of it, you're going to be extremely disappointed and you're going to be sorry. And that's why I always have a mindset of staying ahead of the game, always having 2 to 3, streams of income. That's the whole reason why I got into driving for ride shares, just to have an extra, 2 or 3 different things to do in case something happens. You get laid off or, something happens at home and you need to make extra money. Maybe you want to go take a trip or something like that. And you take these side hustles and gigs and you make you a little money on the side here and there. And you can afford to do some of these things. And it's just a necessary thing now with the economy and what it's looking like. It's crazy out here, guys. And you just got to get ahead of it. These bots are real because in my area, our Walmart actually delivers. When you order a certain amount, they go by the weight of it. And, they're not doing a bunch of heavy stuff, but, you can definitely order you some stuff, some lightweight stuff, man. And these drones will drop it off at your damn door. It's crazy. So this is just the beginning. Just getting started. So if you are driving for Uber and Lyft, you probably want to think about other alternatives soon. I'm not going to say in the next 2 or 3 years, but definitely in the next 5 to 10, it'll probably be flooded with, these Waymo cars and these other options that you're going to have to deal with.
And so what we're finding out is there's more turnover than ever in the gig work industry. Only about 41% of new Uber drivers were still active after 6 months, according to the 2025 data. And previously it was over 50%. So you just have more and more people that are leaving. The retention rates are dropping. Also, during the pandemic, there was a lot of bonuses popping up from these apps. These apps previously offered strong incentives and bonuses to start driving for them, and it helped maintain the driver supply during peak time, especially when people didn't want to go out. Everybody was afraid to go to the restaurants, and delivery became the #1 source of revenue for all these restaurants. But those bonuses have basically disappeared. So there's less incentive than ever to jump on and do this work. If you are still doing it, you're competing with more people than ever who are doing it. And apparently they're deactivating people's accounts on these platforms as well, sometimes for unknown reasons. Like one example, a driver lost access after failing an identity check on time. So if you lose access to the app, then instantly your income is gone as well. And the weird thing about that, little side tangent, guys, like the last couple of times I have ordered food delivery from Uber Eats, it shows you the person who's going to be delivering your food, right? It shows you their picture and what kind of car they're driving. The last 2 or 3 times I use this, which isn't very often, maybe once a month I use it, it's not the same person, okay? It shows that, Jose is coming and then Maria shows up instead.
Yeah, man, that's real. And that's what they're doing. A lot of people, they're going to get it how they live, by any means necessary, guys. And to be honest with you, they're a portion or a part of the problem because, Uber and Lyft, they'll send you on these dummy missions for, $2 to go pick up, drive 5 miles and get an order. And the average person is not going to take that. But, Jose will take that order and will continue to take them. And the problem is if people are continuing to take these orders that are trash, then the company's going to keep putting them out. As soon as people or the drivers say, you know what, I'm not taking this anymore. This is ridiculous. They're squeezing us out. And they will start to realize that, we might need to start paying more or like we used to, treat them like we used to. But like I said, guys, they're going to do whatever they can do to squeeze as much money out as possible. And it's becoming a point where now it's just not worth doing it. And if you're thinking about doing this full time, I would advise you not to do that. I would advise you to have a main thing and then, have a side hustle. And these things are cool for side hustles, but they're not worth doing it full time anymore. And those days are over, and it's not a good look.
Vice versa. It's very weird. Sometimes it's not even the right sex. So that's a whole nother shadow industry that's going on probably behind the scenes. You have a lot of people, probably illegal immigrants, using legitimate accounts to deliver on these apps when in fact it's not even the person that you're being told it is. And if you're actually getting in someone's car for a ride and it's not food delivery, that presents some obvious safety issues as well. But now a lot of people who've been doing gig work as their main source of income over the past year or two are having a very hard time securing full-time employment, because not only is the job market extremely competitive right now, but gig work as your last job that you had on your resume isn't very appealing for a lot of employers. So a lot of gig workers are probably going to do better if they just remove that from their resume altogether.
And the reason why that is because companies who are hiring people, if they see that on your resume, they look at it like, well, if he doesn't like this or she doesn't like that, then they can just pick up and say, you know what, I can always go back to gig writing. I can go back and do that. No problem. And so when they hire people, they want people there that were going to stay. And that's kind of ironic because most companies don't give a damn about, the people. Either they'll drop you in a heartbeat and they won't even look at it twice, guys. They'll do it over an email, over a text message, and they'll just keep it moving. So you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't. Only thing I could tell you guys for advice is say, hey, sign up for as many gig apps that you can and get signed up with them just in case, try them out, of course, and then keep them in your back pocket, man, in case something happens. You never know when you might need it, or just, drive once or twice a week, using them, get you a little side money, whatever you're trying to do, use it for that. But I would definitely stay away from doing it as a full-time type of thing. But I've talked to some people, and some people, depending on the area, they are loving it. Some people are still making a living. I mean, I met an older lady. She was retired, and she told me that, she does it and she enjoys it. And she makes, I think, close to $1,000 a week doing it, because she's in a nice area, it's busy for her. And so it just depends on the area. It depends on a lot of different things as well. Everybody's not going to have the same experience, guys, but most people, from what I'm hearing, are having pretty mid to low tier experiences with this in 2026 in the current day right now. So I don't think it's worth it in the long haul. But hey, do what you got to do what you feel you need to. We all have to do what we got to do out here sometimes, and it is what it is, guys. And I'll end the video with that. And I also like to thank everybody for watching. If you do enjoy this, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button, because I drop content on this channel every single day. And with that being said, guys, I will see you all in the next video.